What's up everybody, welcome to the Commander Theorem, where we present our take on some of your favorite commanders. The Commander format is a fun and diverse one, where every deck can be different and unique to its own creator. So if there's cards that you'll see in this list that you're not super big on, no worries, you can use this video as just a jumping off point to your own creative tangent. Today's theorem will cover one of my favorite new builds, one that actually has a lot of politicking and jolly cooperation at its core. Let's all praise the sun today and welcome everyone's favorite purple hippo, Phelddagrif. Phelddagrif is a 4/4 legendary Phelddagrif for 1, a blue, a white, and a green. That's 4 mana for you non-math types like myself. It has 3 activated abilities. You can pay a green mana to give Phelddagrif trample until the end of turn, and a target opponent will create a 1/1 green hippo creature token. You can pay 1 white mana to give Phelddagrif flying until the end of turn, and a target opponent will gain 2 life. You can pay 1 blue mana to return Phelddagrif to your hand, and a target opponent gets to draw a card. So looking at these 3 abilities, Phelddagrif aims to be more beneficial to our opponents during the game, much more so than ourselves, and so this can be used to our advantage to make alliances, play politics, and pretty much keep the heat off of our potatoes. For the deck that we're going to be building today, I want to focus on utilizing the first of those 3 abilities. Creating hippo tokens for our opponents can have a number of uses for us. First and foremost, we are giving them a creature that they can use, preferably to smack face into one of our other opponents. We can also utilize them later on to be detrimental to our opponents. The point is to not come off as a threat until you can actually make an impactful move. Now for this deck, we do have a higher than average number of ramp spells and abilities in our deck to ensure that we'll have plenty of mana to channel into funneling those hippo tokens to our opponents. This is going to be the main trick of our commander, and we want to utilize it as early as possible. Starting off our deck, I think the most crucial aspect is the aforementioned ramp package. Mana ramp is going to help get us rolling a lot sooner than our opponents, even though a lot of our cards do have a symmetrical benefit to the table. So not only are we getting ramp to our own board, but we're also ramping everyone else. You're welcome. Veteran Explorer is a 1-drop that upon it dying, each player gets to put up to 2 basic lands into play from their libraries. This is a great early turn drop as it can easily set up to ramp everyone out to 3 or 4 lands as early as turn 2. Sakura Tribe Steve is one of the few ramp sources that only benefit us, allowing us to sacrifice him to grab a basic land to enter play tapped. Magus of the Vineyard and Elidamri's Vineyard both do pretty much the same thing, one being a creature, the other an enchantment. They each give the turn player 2 green mana to use at the beginning of their pre-combat main phase. Birds of Paradise is a very nice and unassuming mana dork that we've included, being very low profile as a 0/1 that taps for 1 mana of any color. There's nothing suspicious about a flying mana dork. Selvala, Explorer Returned, is a rather unique mana dork in that she lets each player reveal the top card of their library. For each non-land card that's revealed, you'll generate a green mana and you'll gain a life, and then everyone draws a card. It's very group huggy and it's very explosive. You can easily generate 4 green mana with Selvala and gain quite a decent chunk of life. And even if you can only snag up 2 green mana off of this, it being both ramp and card draw is absolutely a grand slam. Wood Elves is one of the best land tutor cards for this deck, letting you grab a forest card, not specifying that it needed to be a basic, so any of our shock lands or non-basic forests like Dryad Arbor, they can be searched for. We do run all 3 signets in this deck, each provides us with excellent mana fixing, and it's good for non-land ramps since we are a little light in the realm of traditional mana dorks. I'm sorry, Llanowar Elves. Collective Voyage is incredibly powerful in games where people are wanting to hit the ground running. You can easily dump just a little bit of mana into this and drop tons of your basic lands into play. And more than likely, your opponents will hop on the gravy train and appreciate the generosity. Cultivate is a standard inclusion for green decks, letting you search for 2 basic lands, one heads to the battlefield, the other to your hand. Farseek and Nature's Lore are 2 land ramp cards that I highly praise, letting you go for dual lands that happen to have those basic land types, making them excellent for mana fixing early game. Skyshroud Claim is another great ramp spell, letting you snag 2 forests, and again, not limited to just basic forests. They also don't enter the battlefield tapped, making them doubly useful. Tempt with Discovery is great for group hugs. Much like the Collective Voyage, this lets opponents go for lands out of their libraries, and for each one that does get to tutor a land out, you get an additional land. So if all 3 opponents get to take the offer up, you'll get a total of 4 land cards put into the battlefield untapped off of Tempt with Discovery. And note that this card also does not specify the land has to even be a basic land or even have a basic land type. Dictate of Karametra has Flash, letting you drop it into play just before your turn begins to get some extra benefit before anyone else. This will give you an additional mana for each land you tap, giving you extra bang for your buck. Rites of Flourishing is a very group-huggy card, giving each player an additional card draw each turn, as well as an additional land drop each turn. So each player gets to draw 2 and play 2 lands each turn. Frontier Siege is probably my favorite enchantment out of the deck. We will always be choosing cons to give us a total of 4 extra green mana each turn, between the 2 main phases. And if we have Phelddagrif in play, we can give up to 4 hippo tokens each turn. So we've made all of these hippo tokens for our opponents, and with some good political manipulation, you should be rather safe from being attacked with the hippos you created. But what if someone goes off script and chooses to attack at us? First of all, friendship is magic, and clearly these opponents need to read the terms and conditions of me creating hippo tokens for them. It's in the fine print. Secondly, we came prepared. We do have a number of Pillow Fort style cards that are going to deter and discourage attacking at us. Starting off, the classic fluffy pillows known as Ghostly Prisoning Propaganda will each cost opponents 2 mana per creature to attack at us. Even after benefiting from all the ramp we offer the table, that cost per creature can still add up to make it incredibly difficult to attack at us effectively. Get out of my house. Palliation Accord is incredibly valuable as a deterrent for the hippo swarms. Whenever an opponent's creature becomes tapped, we get a shield counter on the Accord. This also can trigger when an opponent swings at another opponent with said hippos, or any creature honestly. We can then remove a shield counter from the Palliation Accord at any time to prevent any 1 damage being dealt to us. If all of those hippos come at us, we can simply remove all those shield counters that they generate to negate any and all damage that would be dealt to us. We can also stockpile these counters to use when the bigger threats start to come at us, as the damage reduction can stack to neutralize any threat. Get out of my house. Sphere of Safety is our penultimate Pillow Fort card. This enchantment costs opponents 1 mana per creature per enchantment we control to attack. So say we have this and 2 other enchantments on our board. This will cost opponents 3 mana to attack at us with just 1 creature just off of this. If they want to hit us hard, it's going to take a lot of mana to do so. Once again, get out of my house. Baird, Steward of Argive, is another Pillow Fort, only this time he's on a stick, and he costs an additional mana to attack us for each creature. With all these cards out on the field at once, it can become way too expensive to attack us, even with 1 creature. Get out my house. Edric, Spymaster of Trest, can also incentivize players to go after one another once we become untouchable, letting them still draw more cards for attacking one another. Kindly take your hippos out of my house and direct them to our next door neighbors. Guafa Hazid is a great tech to pacify creatures, giving an opponent a card draw in exchange for their creatures being unable to attack or block. Yeah, that's nice you got your commander out and you're all pumped and ready to go, but the word of the day is get out of my house. Orzhov Advocist offers us 2+1/+1 counters on creatures in exchange for protecting us from being attacked until our next turn by any player who accepts our bribe. Out of der house. Windborn Muse is basically Ghostly Prison on a creature, an additional 2 mana per creature to attack. At this point, you're basically just spewing out hippos for them to attack each other with. If they're still coming after you at this point, you need to pay attention during your politics class and stop texting on your phone. Orbs of Warding is double utility for giving us hexproof and neutralizing 1 point of damage from each incoming attack. Crown of Doom is perhaps the best deterrent for this deck. For 2 mana, you can give the crown to another player, and then you cannot be given the crown back after that. Each creature that attacks the player wearing the hot potato crown gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Opponents are going to be scrambling to pass this on to one another while you no longer have the heat on your tail. Now, if you've tried all of that and for some reason you are still attacked and are to take damage, and unplugging your deck and plugging it back in after 30 seconds still does not resolve the problem, Illusionist's Gambit does let you cancel the attack and redirect it at another player. So one last time for the people in the back, get out of my house. And if all else for some reason fails, Bluster Squall is a great way to just say no to being attacked by just tapping down every creature that is not currently employed by your company. Now through these methods we are capable of protecting ourselves from damage, and if we can hold off for a few turns, Azor's Elecutors can be a win condition that opponents can't stop without some hasty removal. Being able to negate a lot of the damage we would normally be taking does come in handy while this is in play, as we'll get a filibuster counter at each upkeep, and we only lose those when we are damaged. Now then, we have all these hippos going around, tons of hippos being tossed out. You think Hasbro did a product placement for hungry hippos. We do actually run a few ways to make them hurt the opponents that we give them to. For starters, Angel's Trumpet can be deadly to opponents who can't attack for whatever reason. Perhaps a generous opponent has some Pillow Fort cards preventing it. It gives all creatures vigilance, but if the creature who can attack do not, they get tapped, and they'll singe their controller for 1 life per creature tapped this way. With the number of hippos being spawned, those hippos are either attacking, preferably not at us, or they're going to slowly take their controller down. Amulet of Safekeeping can also neuter those hippos, making them into 0/1s that likely will not be attacked with, and so, again, they will be hippoed to death. We also run Suture Priest, which is a nice little Soul Sister type creature that has a twist. It gains us 1 life for each creature we get on our battlefield, and it pings an opponent whenever they get a creature, namely our Hippo Huggy Time friends. Friendship is magic. And in addition to our commander, we do run another creature capable of making hippos. The evil counterpart to Phelddagrif, the Questing Phelddagrif, who I think is a little bit better than the commander in some senses. Rather than simply gaining trample with the hippo spawning ability, the Questing Phelddagrif makes a token in exchange for getting +1/+1 until the end of turn. So we can utilize our mana to make an absurdly large hippo, give it flying with 1 blue, and swing in for game without a whole lot of trouble. We also run a number of other group hug type cards that will give some nice benefits around the table. Noble Benefactor lets us each tutor a card to the hand upon it dying. This is an incredible powerful ability, as not only does it let each of our opponents snag a card up, but we can do so as well. Howling Mind gives each player an additional card at the beginning of their turn. Temple Bell lets each player draw a card when it's tapped. Otherworld Atlas can be charged up for a few turns, only to have the table draw a card for each counter on it. Mercy Killing is a unique removal spell, I'll call it, in that it forces the sacrifice of a creature and then gives a number of 1/1 green and white elf warrior tokens equal to that creature's power. This gets around creatures with indestructibles, so it could be a good option should an opponent have a threat we can't deal with otherwise. Oblation is a staple and can even be used on our own stuff if we choose, shuffling in a non-land permanent, and then its controller gets 2 cards. We can use this on an opponent to eliminate a powerful threat, or let us draw 2 at the cost of shuffling in an arbitrary card. Minds Aglow is similar to Collective Voyage, except that with all the mana we pull together, instead of going for basic lands, we'll draw cards. Who wouldn't want to draw at least 10 cards? Prosperity is a group draw card and a great mana sink to turbo through our library. Sylvan Offering gives quite a few tokens around the table, letting us politic heavily to see who wants the elves and who wants the tree folk. Dictative Crewfix lets everyone else draw a card. Well of Ideas does so as well, except we get to draw 2 additional cards. So as you see, we do place a rather hefty priority on draw spells, as there's really nothing more dangerous when running this deck than running low on answers or card draw. The deck heavily covers 2 weaknesses that I find in many decks, being mana ramp and card draw, maybe by overcompensating. Speaking of mana ramp, let's do the cha-cha slide over to the part where we talk about mana bases. Our mana base is in Bant colors, so islands, plains, and forests are our basic types. I do run heavy on the green mana to make sure we can use our Phelddagrif's token generation abilities, and I'm only running the on-color fetches, as they can search for any of the colors we need at any given point. Ash Barrens gives us a basic land to our hand for 1 mana. Blighted Woodling gives us 2 basics tapped in any combination. Frozen Verge gets us a forest and a plains card, making them doubly useful as they also do not specify for a basic land. Oran Reef the Vastwood is interesting, as we can use it to pump up those hippos we generate for our opponents to being 2/2s. Seaside Citadel gives us any color we need, although it entering the battlefield tapped is a bit of a downside. Treva's Ruins, on the other hand, is a highly underrated gem, as it enters the battlefield untapped. Yeah, you have to bounce a non-land card to your hand to play it, but tapping that land for mana before bouncing it doesn't really lose you any tempo, unlike the Ravnica Karus, so I do feel this card does not see the level of play that it deserves. The 3 Vivid lands are here as well. Those 2 charge counters they enter the battlefield with gives us nice mana fixing while they're there. They also are great options to bounce with the Karu lands and Treva's Ruins, as you can then soft reset them to replenish the counters. Obviously, if your budget can swing for it, the 3 Ravnica Shocklands are the optimal and excellent dual lands you should run in this deck to see the best consistency in your mana production. Now, if this video has not fully whet your appetite for some happy hippo adventures, and you'd like to see the full uncensored deck list, there is a link down below in that description box you can check out to make your way over to the tapped out list, where you can see all of the deck in all of its glory. And if this deck does seem to tickle your fancy, you can actually buy this deck using one of the links on the tapped out page. I personally recommend Card Kingdom for buying up the singles. You could probably order them today, and get them quicker than anywhere else. No, this isn't a paid promotion for me to say that, I just find it absolutely jaw-dropping how quickly I get the crap I order from them. Whatever weird flu network you guys got going on over at Card Kingdom with your shipping procedures, keep it up. So now that we've discussed how to build the deck, how do we play the deck? Well, the main focus of the deck is to remain passive and off radar as long as you can. Play defensively, be generous with your gift giving, and don't present yourself as a target while everyone else is building up their board states. You have the resources at your hand to defend yourself through the pillow forts and the removal, and to give out treats of sorts to the opponents who do not attack you. They can get mana ramp, card draw, and even creature presence off of our deck's generosity, and all they have to do is not dump on us with attacks and such. So by doing so, we can prove to be a valuable ally, and with a little political trickery we can get on their good side and not be attacked. The best way to get ahead with this deck is to use your politicking to get opponents to just go after one another, leaving you be while they whittle each other down. All you're doing is playing pillow fort cards and making hippo tokens. There's absolutely no threat presented. You have cards like Reigns of Power should you be in a position to kill an opponent using their own creatures, especially when you have few or none to give to them. This is just an excellent tactic to shift gears to take a player out, and it's effective when you're down to just one opponent. This build is an optimized deck by my standards, though my take on a mana basis may be a little bit less competitively built than others. I choose to run as few lands that enter the battlefield tapped as I can without going to some expensive cards, and if you want to make a more budget-friendly version, you can easily substitute some of the costlier cards for some less expensive equivalents. That's going to wrap up this Commander Theorem. I'd love to hear what your thoughts on Phelddagrif are. Let's chat down in the comments section below. Remember to like and share this video with your Commander playing friends. Perhaps you can incorporate this deck into your playgroup to spice up some of your games. You can find links to the various social medias of the channel down in the description below, as well as a link to our Patreon if you'd like to help support our future work. As always, you have a lovely day. Thanks for spending some time with me today, and I'll catch up with you guys, gals, and NB pals next video. Later.
Summer in the hills, those hazy days I do remember. We were running still, had the whole world at our feet, watching seasons change. Our roads were